My name is Xiong. Where is it? Oh, that's fine. Today I will briefly talk about geometric mechanics, which potentially could provide important tools for understanding the motion of various living systems. As we know that the movement of animals is generated from all kinds of elements and systems, such as muscles, bones, and the nervous system, brains. To understand the movement of the animals, we might want to understand all the elements, but understanding all the elements, we might only understand how the animal deforms itself. We still don't understand the movement of the body displacement. So the fundamental physics is how do we understand the movement generated from the self-deformation, and how to find certain the self-deformation to achieve certain displacement. So this is where geometric mechanics could play its role. Geometric mechanics was firstly explored by physicists to study locomotion in low-resonance number fluids. The people in the engineering field started to push its usage further. Applying geometric mechanics, we essentially could get the kinetic reconstruction equation. A local connection matrix can be found to map the internal velocity, the ship velocity, to external velocity, the body velocity. Analyzing the vector fields from the local connection matrix, we could get the constraint curvature function, CCFs. For lower dimensional systems, CCFs can be used to visualize effective gates and locomotion capabilities. So let me explain this using the Purcell's ring, the Cernic streamer. The body velocity of the Cernic streamer is three-dimensional, containing x translation, y translation, and the rotation. While the ship velocity is two-dimensional, with two rotation joints. So taking each row of the connection matrix as a vector, so over the ship space it will become a vector field, and the CCFs can be further calculated from the vector fields. Considering a gate, a closed curve in the ship space, the net displacement of the gate can be calculated by the line integral of the connection times the velocity vector along the gate curve. And by Stokes' theorem, the line integral is equivalent to the area integral of the constraint curvature function over the area enclosed by the gate curve. So that means we can identify the gate displacement by easily inspecting the positive and negative regions of the constraint curvature function. Since animals and other living systems do not live in the world of low-resonance fluids, so it was very interesting to explore geometric mechanics for motion in different environments, such as the granular media, because a lot of animals are dealing with the granular media every day. So as there is no analytical force for the granular media, when putting the Purcell's streamer in granular media, they were using an empirical resistor force law to calculate the forces acted on the bodies. Basically, a series of direct experiments was done to measure the forces on the intruder. They found that once the media starts to flow, the force is sensitive to the speed, and with the assumption of linear superposition, they were able to numerically calculate the forces and the vector fields. So this is how they realize the constraint curvature functions for each body velocity component. For this kind of a circle gate, we can see that it produces no y translation and no rotation, because the gate encloses the same positive and negative regions. While for the displacement in the x direction, it actually produces some displacement because the gate encloses more negative regions than the positive region. As the gate goes clockwise, so the displacement is actually positive in the x direction. We can use the radius to represent the gate stroke amplitude. To better examine the theory, they compare the results with the discrete element simulation, and they determined it indicates that the results match quite well for small stroke amplitude. And for large strokes, the quantitative agreement is lacking. This suggests that the discrepancy always happens at this kind of C-shape configuration. But as the C-shape configuration, the kind of the symmetrical flapping always happens on the real animals, such as the mouse sleeper, what it's doing here. So the problem is becoming very interesting. So we started to explore the symmetrical flapping motion on this locomotion system. The robot has 4 flippers actuated symmetrically in the lateral direction. And the angles can be represented by alpha 1 and alpha 2. Another linear motor is used for elongation, represented by alpha 3. So the shear space is 3-dimensional, and the body displacement is only 1-dimensional because there is no rotation and no lateral displacement. Then we applied the impact force law from the ground media and found the local connection is only about the flapping. So the elongation and the flapping motion can be planned separately. And we plot the vector field and the connection conjoint curvature function over the shape subspace. We can find the optimum subgate that encodes the maximum positive region over the shape subspace, and then combine the elongation within this optimum subgate and get the optimum gate in the shape space. So this shows what the optimum gate looks like in the real world. The experimental data shows that the robot moves quite effectively, accumulating about 8 centimeter displacement over a cycle. So the question becomes, does the CCF quantitatively produce the displacement in our case? The answer is not yet. We found that when we model the granular media, we think it as frictional fluid with viscosity. So there will be a transitional region where the force and velocity is independent, and the force has not reached to the maximum value. So we use sigma functions to approximate the translational region. The small coefficient means large translational region. We plot the CCFs for 3 different sigmoid functions. Sigmoid coefficient, we found that changing the sigmoid coefficient actually scales the constraint curvature functions. The displacement decreases as the sigmoid coefficient increases, or the translational region decreases. But the positive and the negative regions are unchanged. So the optimum gate are the same. So that means that we need a better force model in the future. But even without process force model, geometric mechanics still provides insights for effective gates. Another interesting finding is that the history. The current geometric theory does not account for the history that the locomotor system made on its environment. This could be potentially very useful because animals oftentimes try to manipulate their environment to achieve better locomotion performance. So here is an example of the robot doing symmetric flapping motion. Theoretically, the robot motion should be reversible, generating 0 displacement. But what really happens is it generates tails and cavities on the surface, which somehow eventually helps the robot to move somewhere. So to conclude, the living system always do locomotion by self-deformations, interacting with the environment, instead of using a rotation wheel or something. So the environment can be simple, such as low ground number of fluids, or complicated, such as granular medium. So as the geometric tools are developed to study locomotion by self-deformation, using it to study locomotion of living systems becomes very promising. So that's how we will thank our collaborators and the funding results. Any questions?
It's not fair for the moderator to ask you those stupid questions.
In the Stokes modeling with the medium, do you treat turbulence or other nonlinear effects? Do you think they're important?
It is important in some sense, but for some animal locomotion from some of them are connected, such as the sunfish. If you known as the sandwich. When it is on the surface, it is dynamic, but when it is jump into the ground medium, the locomotion becomes dynamic. The velocity is independent of the displacement is independent of the ship velocity.
Okay. If there are no further questions, let's thank David.